Hi resellers and thrifters, this is Carrie, Be Carried Away. I'm here at a local park enjoying the semi-decent weather out here in New York State. Windy and cold, overcast, but that's what we call good weather here. And I'm going to be doing my top 10 mistakes that I've made on eBay, Poshmark, as a reseller. So we all learn from our own mistakes, we all learn from other people's successes, and I'm hoping that in this video you can learn from my mistakes. So stay tuned. Okay, number 10 on my list is buying clothing on style alone, buying hard goods based on what you like, and not comping them. So style alone just does not work. With clothing, you really need to pay close attention to brand and to materials. Is it cashmere? Is it wool? Style will not sell. So I have an example here. This really pretty, what I thought was really pretty jean jacket with embellishments and colors, and I bought this on Style Alone. The brand is Anage, A-N-A-G-E, but it's sat for a year and a half, finally sold for $22. So I don't do that anymore. Number 10 on my list is losing an item. So you've sold something, you get a great price for it, maybe not so great price for it, but when you go to look for it to ship, you're sweating it out and you just can't find it and have to cancel the sale. So you really need some kind of an inventory system. It doesn't have to be bins with inventory numbers or anything like that, but you need to put things in categories or groups and know where everything is. So here's an example of a vintage dress that I sold early on in my Poshmark days for $25. It's a very unusual dress. It's only going to find a certain kind of buyer, so I was happy to sell it for $25. Guess what? It's still in my closet. I couldn't find it at the time. I found it about 3 or 4 months later in a bag, not with vintage and not with dresses. I had it misplaced, literally. So keep track of where your items are. Get those sales out. It's really important. Okay, number 8 is not noticing a flaw in an item before you send it out. So you really should always do a pre-shipment inspection. I have an example here of this vintage Brooks Brothers sweater that I sold for $101 on eBay, and unfortunately it did have a small flaw and it was returned. So that's a gut punch on that one. Vintage can be tough, as clothing can be tough. You know, you really have to look it over. It's not surprising. You can't beat yourself up if you miss something. You just have to, you know, be straight up front with the refunds and move on from there. So this I do have back in my closet. I've had it professionally repaired, and hopefully I'll realize a good price on it again. Number 7 is related to the last one, and that's getting upset or worrying too much about returns. You're going to have them. It's part of the business. Sometimes you'll even sell something for more money. So this pusheen sweater, I didn't notice that it was a little bit more pilled than my description stated. It was returned. I resold it for quite a bit more money once the pilling was gone. Number 6 is a shipping mix-up. Mixing up 2 orders, sending the wrong sweater to one buyer and the wrong hat to the other buyer. You can mix up both sometimes, and that's even worse because you're going to have to pay for shipping to have them sent back. Now, the best thing to do in that case, I feel, is to reach out to both buyers, ask them to ship directly to each other. You're going to save yourself shipping coming back to you and then back out. I've had it happen only a handful of times, and each time the buyers were more than happy to do that. So, you know, it's problem solving 101. But when it does happen, it's usually because I'm rushing. So don't rush your shipping process, or I get interrupted in the shipping process. So I'm very careful to write down on each item what's in that bag and who it's going to immediately. Because if the phone rings, if I get a text and I start looking at it, if I get distracted, the dog needs to go out, it's really easy to remember, or to forget, not to remember, what's in that particular bag. So take your time with your shipping and be careful not to mix up packages, but it does happen. Okay, we're on to number 5. Number 5 is underestimating your shipping cost. Now, if it's a domestic item, sometimes it won't be that bad. If it's something heavy, chances are you're not going to underestimate it because you know that it's going to cost a lot. So you're going to be careful about putting the shipping down there. What can happen though sometimes is on a lightweight item, if you haven't entered it correctly, or if you forget to enter you know, something over 2 pounds and then it goes international, now this is on eBay, you can get walloped. So this coat right here, I underestimated the shipping by quite a bit. I charged the buyer $55 in shipping, and it was really $67 in shipping. Now, some people use the global shipping program where you ship directly to Kentucky, and the value in that is that you're not going to pay a final value fee on a high cost of ship overseas. So I'm paying a final value fee on that $67. And if I had done the global shipping program, I could have only paid the final value fee on the $10 for it to ship to Kentucky. The drawback with that, however, is that this global shipping program is much more expensive for buyers overseas because they're paying their shipping overseas from Kentucky and the shipping for you to ship it to Kentucky. Plus they're paying their duty tax ahead of time to eBay. So I choose not to use the global shipping program most times. I think I get more international buyers that way because the cost is less, but once in a while, you know, in this case, I underestimated the shipping on this coat. I made a really good profit on this coat, so it's fine, but it definitely was a mistake that you can learn from. So now we have a new use for this. Somebody behind me, standing behind me, is super excited about it. Aren't you, Beck? So basically, I'm turning the cat into a treat jar. So a cookie jar of sorts, but this is definitely on the mistakes list. So you can see the chip there. And there we go. Oh, I hear a thumping, wagging tail behind me, don't I? Okay, number 4 is damaging an item yourself. The way that this has happened to me is when I left an item out in the public traffic of the house, and I had a cookie jar that I would have listed for over $60 based on comps, and it got cracked. So I won't be selling it. I'm keeping it. Here it is in my kitchen, and this cat is now feeding dog treats to my dog. So that's one way that it can happen. Another way is in transport. I recently had a small print. The glass got damaged. Sometimes that's inevitable if you're traveling. But the third way, and something that you can avoid, and I do suggest you take, a learning lesson from my experience, is to make sure that if you're cleaning something, if there's a spot or you're trying to, fix it up, that you do it properly. I had this gorgeous, cute, adorable rabbit fur vintage coat, and it had just a little bit of a spot on the back, and I tried to get it off, and I didn't do it the right way, and it made it worse. So I had to cancel that sale, and I still have it. I haven't even decided what I'm going to do with it yet. I might try, I sold it for $50. I don't know if it's worth having it professionally repaired, but it's so cute. I hate to just, get rid of it. So there's a learning lesson on that one. Try not to damage your own items yourself. Okay, mistake number 3 that you can learn from is on clothing, not photographing the materials tags or not getting the material tag and information in the listing somehow. I had a big sale that I missed out on because this item was listed as 100% cashmere. It went to France. When the buyer got it, it wasn't. Now, the brand was marketing this as cashmere. You can see here in the tag. But the materials tag showed that it just had a small percentage of cashmere in it, and the buyer wanted to return. It turned out that the shipping was just so expensive that I didn't even get it back. So I had to refund the buyer. I did not get the item back, and that was a harsh learning lesson on that item. Okay, number 2 is for resellers really that have been selling a long time, and that's not keeping up with trends and what's selling for what price currently. 5 years ago, something might have been selling at a totally different price, and so you pay up for something and then you find out that it's not the same. So doing comps is important, watching YouTube videos is important. I've learned this lesson a little bit with leather jackets. So years ago, the leather jackets were a hot trend. When the movie Fight Club came out with Brad Pitt and Edward Norton, I've talked about this in other videos, these men's leather retro vintage jackets were all the rage. They were going for a lot of money. Same with women's leather jackets. They still sell. Some people love them, but they're not as much of a trend, and so they don't sell for as much. So I wouldn't pay up for those items necessarily as much as I might have in the past. So keep up with what's selling and what the current prices are. Okay, number one, here it is. This is what I have listed as number one. And that's not holding out for your price. If you know that you have a fair price on a particular item, hold out for that price. You don't always have to be a fast flipper on every item. I know some people have different marketing strategies and they have different business models. And there are some fast flippers out there who do a great job. But if you have an item that you know is valuable, you know the comps are correct, just hold out for the price. I have this new with tags vintage from the 80s J. Crew chore coat, and I had an $80 offer over on Poshmark, but I had it listed for $120. I held out just a few more months and I got that $120 over on eBay. The same was true of this Woolrich. This was also new with tags and it was vintage. So those items, you know, they're primo, they're one of a kind. They're not going to come along. The buyers are not going to find, you know, a lot of, you know, dead stock items like that. And so I knew that I should hold out. So I got a lowball offer of $50 on that. And I ended up selling it for $89 just a couple of days later. A third example is these Oscar de la Renta shoes. These are true vintage plaid. I had listed them in the spring of last year and they just didn't sell over the summer. I actually almost fell prey to this mistake because I lowered them to like $25 trying to ship them. I just thought maybe I had priced them wrong. And after thinking about it more, I thought, you know, no, these are really awesome shoes and they deserve to go for a higher price. So I put the price back up and left it there. And sure enough, in the fall, they sold for $79 on Poshmark. So boy, was I glad that I repriced them up and not just always down, down, down. Okay, and here's a bonus. So the bonus is not cross-listing. That's a big mistake. You will sell things on different platforms to different buyers, and it is really worth cross-listing. I sell on eBay, Poshmark, and I'm starting to cross-list on Mercari and Facebook using List Perfectly, and it's been awesome. So I highly recommend that. Now that said, a really, really big mistake is not pulling your item down once it's listed on another platform off. My one and only negative feedback that I got, which is gone now, thankfully, it was over a year ago, but when I first started was I didn't take the item down fast enough. And when I did, I tried to be fair and I took it down by the second buyer who had bought it, but that buyer was on eBay. And that buyer left me a negative feedback. So even though you cancel an order, a buyer on eBay can still leave you negative feedback. So keep that in mind. The advice that I got from other resellers was that I should have canceled the Poshmark sale, even though the Poshmark buyer had bought it first. So that's a bit of a moral, you know, philosophical question there, but if you want to protect yourself from negative feedback because you had to cancel an item that was cross-listed, this buyer was really angry and said that I should have put in the listing that the item was cross-posted and that she might not have bought something that was cross-posted. Now, I think everybody's cross-posting and cross-listing these days, so I don't think that's really necessarily a fair, you know, critique, but at the same time, you know, be aware of making sure you take down those sold items right away. It's the first thing I do. I keep my phone with me and I immediately get those off. Thank you guys so much for watching. I have another great video that I'm going to be putting up soon, which is which YouTube channels have made me the most money. So watching other YouTubers, you know, what have I sold that is a direct result of watching those videos and getting that advice from other YouTube channels. So thanks so much. See you soon and good luck thrifting.